Okay, so we're going to start on the review for quiz for the Chapter 2 quiz. And question number 1 says, find Jack's grade when his college English class is based on the following grades. So this is our weighted mean. So to find it, we're going to take each grade, multiply it by its weight, and add those all together. Then you divide by the sum of the weights. This will give us our weighted mean. The numerator comes out to 1,661. Our denominator comes out to 20. So we get about 83.05. So the student received about an 83. Okay, down below, in number 2, it actually says we're going to be using this particular set of data for questions 2 through 9. This is the ages of 30 applicants for a high-paying job were as follows. Okay, so in number 2, we have a frequency distribution. The first piece here is that we want to find the midpoint. The midpoint again for the first one would be 20 plus 24 divided by 2, which is 22. Now for the next one, we either know the middle is 27 just from looking at the interval itself, or you could do 25 plus 29 and divide by 2, or if we even take a look at number 3, it says, what is the class interval width? The width comes from taking the difference of any two consecutive lower limits or any two consecutive upper limits, and of course it's the absolute value. So if I did 29 minus 34, this comes out to the absolute value of -5, our class width is 5. Or 55 minus 50, our class width is 5. Okay, there are 5 numbers in each interval. Okay, so now that I know the difference also between 27 and 22 is 5, all I have to do is add the class width going down. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is go through and tally each of your data entries. So 36 belongs in the 4th class. I'm going to cross them off as I enter them. Okay, 23, 29, and so on. So you go through each number, putting a tally mark in the appropriate class. Now I'm trying to go through this very quickly. Really, when it comes to the quiz or even the Chapter 1 test, or if you had to do this on the final exam, you want to go through real slow. You want to make sure that you tally everything correctly. Okay, not only that, you definitely want to use pencil, just in case if you make an error and you need to go back and erase. Okay, there's a couple of checkpoints that we can use to figure out if we've skipped any numbers or we have an extra number. If you accidentally tally one in the wrong column though, you really don't have a check for that. Okay, so now our frequency is however many tally marks we came up with for each of our intervals. Now what we can do is take the sum of this frequency column, and it should equal n, however many numbers we had in our set, which was 30. If I take the sum here, I do get 30, which means that hopefully, if I tallied them correctly, I know that I have accounted for all 30 numbers. Okay, relative frequency. Remember, is that class's frequency divided by the sample size. So our first class, we have a frequency of 5, and then it would be divided by 30. Okay, we always round to 2 or 3 decimal places. 4 is actually even better, but make sure that you round correctly. This next class would be 7 divided by 30. The next class, 4 divided by 30. The next class, 5 divided by 30. 3 divided by 30, 2 divided by 30 for the last 3 classes. Now, if we take the sum of this column, we should get something close to 1, okay, because 100% of our data is accounted for in the table. Okay, cumulative frequency. Remember, that class is frequency plus any previous frequencies. We don't have any previous frequencies to 5, so this one is 5. Now we accumulate our frequencies together. 5 plus 7 is 12. 12 plus 4 is 16. 16 plus 5 is 21. 21 plus 3 is 24. 24 plus 2 is 26. 26 plus 2 is 28. 28 plus 2 is 30. Your last cumulative frequency should equal the sample size, and it does. Okay. This column here, maybe we can't identify that well, but if you take a look at number 4, it says to find the mean of the frequency distribution using the midpoint and the frequency for each class. X here represents our midpoint or class mark. F, of course, represents our frequency. So we're going to multiply every midpoint times its frequency. So 22 times 5 is 110. 27 times 12 is 189. 32 times 16 is 128. 32 times 4, I said 16. I was looking at the cumulative frequency. 32 times 4 is 128. 37 times 5 is 185. 42 times 3, 126. 47 times 2 is 94. 2 times 52 is 104. 2 times 57 is 114. So now what we're going to do using our midpoint and our frequency, we could calculate the mean by doing our x times f divided by n, or we can look at it as x times f over sum of our frequency column. But we know that n in the sum of our frequency column is 30. Now the sum of our x times f column comes out to 1050. So then when we divide, we get 35. So the approximate average age, without adding up all of 30 numbers and dividing by 30, the average age is 35 based on our distribution. Now, later on, we're actually going to go through and calculate it. It might be exactly 35, but maybe we get 35.3. Maybe we get 34, but it will be close. Okay. So now on the next page, it says, draw a frequency histogram for the data above. So remember, the first thing that you want to do is create a title. Okay, we don't want to forget that. So our title could be applicants for a high paying job. Okay, we want to create a vertical scale and a horizontal scale. Our vertical scale is going to be our frequency. We want to make sure that we include the smallest frequency and the largest frequency. The largest frequency we had was 7 back in our frequency distribution. So I'm going to go up to 8. Then I'm going to label my horizontal axis by using my lower limits. So it started with 20, then we had 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, and actually I'm going to need to extend that for the histogram. These numbers down here represent ages. Okay. Now, between 0 to 20 is a distance of 20, but between 20 to 25 is a distance of 5. So to correct that, we need to put in a little break in our graph. Okay, now for the class interval that started at 20. The frequency was 5. So I'm going to draw a segment up to 5. We want to create a rectangle. Okay. The next class had a frequency of 7. So we want to create our rectangle up to 7. Remember, first of all, it's frequency. So that is frequency. And in a histogram, our bars touch. There aren't any spaces between. The next class had a frequency of 4. The next class, we were back up at a frequency of 5. And then the last 3 classes here, 40, we were at a frequency of 3. And then the last 3 classes, we had a frequency of 2. I'm just going to extend all the way to the end here. And there's my 1, 2, 3 bars with a frequency of 2. Now 6A wants us to go back and look at our distribution. It says, what is the shape of the distribution? It elongates or has a tail at the right. So our distribution is skewed to the right, or you could say positively skewed. Now it says, which measure of central tendency best represents the data? Anytime our data is skewed or has an outlier, we use the median. If our data was symmetric, we'd use the mean. If it was nominal level of measurement, we would have to use the mode. Okay. All right, so now in number 7, it says construct a box plot using the data. Well, the first thing is that we'll need to have a title. And we also need to have a number line that represents our minimum through our maximum. I think the minimum is 20. I'm going to go by 5s. I'm actually this is going to end up looking just like our histogram because I'm going by 5s, but you don't have to. I'm going to label these ages. Now we need that 5-number summary. Okay, to do this, I'm going to go into my list in the calculator. So remember, list, we hit stat and edit. Okay, from here, what we're going to do is I'm going to clear this number out of this list here. I'm going to hit clear, then enter. Now I'm going to go through and I'm going to enter in all 30 numbers. Okay, I'm going to double check. So 28, 39, 32, 21, 42, 27, 27, 23, 45, 55, 32, 50, 22, 59, 41, 53, 29, 26, 33, 20, 39. You should definitely double check or triple check your numbers to make sure that they're correct. If you enter in one number wrong, you're going to get quite a few calculations incorrect. Now once I have all these entered, I particularly don't go into the stat plot and look at the box plot. I just go right into my stat, calculate, do my one variable statistics. This, I'm actually in Stat Wizard. I'm going to go into my mode, and again, I'm going to turn it off. It doesn't do anything extra, just for demonstration purposes. Again, in class, it's always going to be off because not everyone has it in their calculators. Okay, so I'm going to go back, stat, calculate one variable statistics. This is the screen we should see. You can enter the list name if you need to, but the calculator will automatically read from list 1. You hit enter. Here's our data. Now for my 5-number summary, I just scroll down, and here I can see my 5 numbers. Okay, my minimum is 20, so I'm going to put a dot at 20, and I'm going to label it 20. My Q1 is 27. My median is 32.5. Q3 is at 41. And our maximum age here is all the way up at 59. So you definitely see that this information is skewed. Okay, we draw a rectangle around our Q1 and Q3. We make sure that our box does not touch the number line. We draw a vertical segment through Q2. Then we draw segments from our Q1 and Q3 out to our minimum and our maximum. So here's our box plot. Now keep in mind that the numbers here do need to be in equal increments. You cannot label your scale 20, 27, 32.5, 41, and 59. Okay, we have to use equal increments. We have to number it. Okay, now the next set says, what percentile does the age 27 fall in? Remember, a box plot, 25% of the data is located in each part. Percentile means equal to or below. So below the number 27 is 25%. But remember, that's not good enough. Okay, we have to either say the 25th percentile, or you can use the notation, the capital P with a sub 25. Okay. The next page here goes through that one variable statistics that we just did. Okay, so now we look back. I'm going to scroll up. If it cleared from your screen, again, it's stat, calculate, one variable statistics. Okay, our mean is X bar, 35. Our median we just had, it's 32.5. The mode, I'm going to skip for a minute. The range. Remember that your range is your maximum minus your minimum. Okay, so my maximum was 59. Our minimum is 20. So our range is 39. Mid-range is your maximum plus your minimum divided by 2. So 59 plus 20 divided by 2 is 39.5. Standard deviation for a sample, the symbol in your calculator is SX. The real symbol is actually just S. But I'm going to scroll back up here. Our directions don't say anything in terms of rounding. I'm just going to round to the nearest tenth. But we get 10.5 to the nearest tenth. Now, for the variance of our sample, okay, I'm going to go into the variables in the calculator, and I'm going to choose the SX. I'm going to square it. So I'm going to hit the variables key. I have to select option number 5 for statistics. Now I'm going to select the third option here for the sample standard deviation, and now I square it. And here's my variance, 109.5. Now for the mode, I'm going to go in and I'm going to sort my list. So we hit stat, and right in the edit menu I want sort A, and I'm going to enter in my list name by hitting second and then number 1. I hit enter, the calculator says done. It means it's completed the task we asked it to do. Now I hit stat and edit. All of the numbers will be in numerical order. So I have two 23s. So far that could be the mode. I keep scrolling. I have two 27s, but I have three 29s. I'm going to make a note of that. So I have three 29s, three 32s, and that's it there. So we have two modes, 29 and 32. They each repeat themselves 3 times. That's more often than any other number. Okay. The next set, 10 through 21, is a matching. Okay, we want to match our symbols. Mu is your population mean. Okay, so population mean here is option B. Sigma is your population standard deviation. S is your sample standard deviation. X bar is your sample mean. N is your sample size. That's option K. Sigma means your sum. That is I. Sigma squared is your population variance. S squared is your sample variance. Q1 is your first quartile or your lower quartile. F represents frequency. P with that sub n means the nth percentile. And Z is your standard score. That is option L. Okay. Last page here, we have a pie chart. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go through and do our relative frequency. This one is deceiving because it's not deceiving, it's just easy because we have 100 students. The one on the quiz I'm telling you right now is not 100, so you're not going to be dividing by 100. But our relative frequency, again, is the number or the frequency in that class divided by the total number. Okay, so here we're going to get 0.57. Then we're going to get 0.20. 10 divided by 100 is 0.1. 8 divided by 100, 0.08. Okay. Remember our percentage, we're going to take our relative frequency, and we times it by 100. We actually, because it's 100 people, the percentage is the same as the frequency. Okay. And now the degrees. We take our relative frequency and we're going to times by the 360 degrees. You're always going to round to the nearest degree. So here we get 0.57 times 360. It comes out to about 205 degrees. 0.2 times 360, 72 degrees. 360 times 0.1 is 36 degrees. 0.08 times our 360, 29 degrees. 0.05 times 316, we get 18 degrees. Okay, I'm going to label or title my display. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to create my angles. Now, the one thing here is we're not going to measure this 205 degrees. I'm actually going to go backwards. I'm going to start with the 18 degrees, and whatever is left over will be my 205. So I line this up at 0, and again, I start at 0, 10, and then I'm going to put a little dot by 18 for my 18 degrees. I'm going to draw on my segment here. This represents pizza. We label it, and we put the percent. With the line that I just created, I'm going to go in and put in my 29 degrees. So again, I line this up at 0, 10, 20, here's 30, 1 minus that, here we're at 29. Now I draw in my segment connecting these, and this is for grilled cheese. And that was 8%. With the line that I just drew, I'm going to line up my center. Again, I line that line up at 0. We're going to 36. So here's 30, 35, here's 36. Just putting a little mark in there, lining it up. This is for soup. That is 10%. Okay, the next one, sorry, I'm going to rotate this here. The next one, I'm going to line up. Again, the line that I just created, I'm lining up at 0. And the degree measurement was 72. So here's 70, 71, 72. And that was for taco salad. And that was 20% of people. Now this is a large slice. It's 180 plus this degree measurement here. And we could measure it. We may or may not be off, but approximately to here is about 20. So 180 plus 20 is about 200. It's 205 degrees. So that's close enough. And we get Bosco sticks. At 57%.